started it, but it'll be minus a minute. Welcome to Neutral Voices In Depth. This is our Thursday night show where we go deep in the trenches of our subject matter. And today our subject is the financial strain and poverty.
But before we jump into the show, man, I'm going to cut you off. Before we jump into the show, man, we want to ask everybody, please, if you have not, go over and join our YouTube page. When you get over there, hit the subscribe button. Then there's a bell that you see off to the side. Touch that bell so that you can get all the notifications as we move forward. So what that means is when we go live, it'll pop up on your phone automatically or whatever mobile device that you have. So financial strain and poverty. Who is responsible for you being in poverty or not being in poverty and the strain that it puts on ones in their life? So if we were to ask that question right now, and I'll throw it out in the room to the panel, and I'm going to throw it right at you, C-Stats, intentionally.
Okay.
So if I were to say to you, who is responsible for causing you as a person to be in a state of poverty? Is it your fault or is it somebody else's fault?
For me to remain in poverty, I'm going to take the brunt of that responsibility. And I would say that is because I should be able to find a way, a means to be able to provide for myself and my family. Regardless of, me working 8 to 5, if that's not cutting it, I need to find another way. I need to find a supplemental way to get myself and my family or whoever that's dependent on me out of poverty. But there is systematic things and there's things that we can't control that keep us in poverty, that keep us down.
So, Jill, your perspective.
I would have to agree, actually. I feel like it is my responsibility to keep myself out of poverty. But like Clarence said, once a person is at that point, whether it be generational poverty, depending on the circumstances, we have to look at, first and foremost, welfare, which I know we're going to get into. So, you can look at all of the different systems, you can look at all the accountability factors, and in my opinion, it's both. It's both. We get trapped in poverty, but it's our responsibility to pull ourselves out.
So when you say you get trapped in poverty,
So here's an example.
Trapped in poverty, I'm confused when you say that. How does one get trapped in poverty?
Because there is a such thing called the poverty trap, which is intentional. It makes it very hard for a person to dig out of the hole that they're in by, let's say, enabling.
Well, I can go into that trapped in poverty a little deeper, and I'm going to let you get on that. But we fall into traps when schools are underfunded, or education is underfunded and schools are closed in certain areas, or the school is not up to standard on one side of town versus the other side of town. So they begin to get a sense of what poverty is, and that's what they think. The trap is more mental. It becomes more mental after it's been systematically put into you, where you believe that that's the best you can do, instead of striving to be different. When you go to a poor school, you got poor neighborhoods and different things like that. Some people tend to believe that that's the best they can do.
So when you say trap, you would say like it's somebody has to intentionally entrap you.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Take a single mother who's married, who they have a pretty decent...
A single mother who's married?
Well, who was married. Single mother who was married. They had a pretty decent income. The dad goes to prison, back when all the black men were being put into prison for drugs. So then you're left by yourself. So you get on welfare, you get on food stamps, you do what everybody's telling you that needs to be done. Instead of going out and getting a different job and knowing that you have to make up for the lack of income, you get on all these programs, which is all fine and dandy until you try to get off of those programs. The programs do not want you to succeed. They are put in place for a reason. That is why I call it the poverty trap.
So let me ask you guys this question, and we're having some real conversation because we want to have some real talk for our viewers. Have any one of you ever struggled or felt as though you were in that poverty state and were trying to get your way out of it?
Yes.
Personally,
Yes.
share with us.
Well, it was one point in time. I've worked in social work since I've been out of school. Social work has been my field. But in Indiana, there was a time where social work, they were hiring freezes and they were cutting programs because of government funding. So I was at a point one time that I hadn't worked for 2 years.
Okay.
You know, I mean, legitimately, there were things that I could do to make money, but for steady flow of income, or the regular income, as we say it wasn't there. So I had to find creative ways to be able to fund and take care of things that I had to take care of. But the reality was, you know, it was sometimes few and far between because you make some money, you just got to wait on it, and it wasn't coming fast enough. So if it had went longer, who knows what could have happened?
So when you're in a place like that, man, what does it do to you? Like as far as like your personal, just being motivated to do things, or your psyche as a man, a black man, or just a man, period, trying to take care of your family, and you know that the financial means are just not there.
Man, it really plays hard. I mean, it can put you into a depression. It could lead you to do things. I mean, if you're short-willed, it can lead you to do things that personally you wouldn't do, but it's a fight or flight thing. So you think, I got to do this in order to survive. Mm-hmm. So you go into this survival mode, and sometimes the survival mode is not conducive to your life in general, but hey, you got to put food on the table.
Correct.
Yeah. So it plays hard on you.
So the majority of people in America, according to the studies that we've done for this program today, it would tell us that the majority of the people are living in survival mode.
Yes.
Existing. Correct?
Yes.
So from a woman's perspective, when we asked the question, Jill, you said that you had never had that struggle.
I have not.
Is that why you're always smiling?
No,
Like, really?
I mean, let me put it this way. If I did not have the support group that I had around me, I probably would have fallen into that. But I have people who, you know, when you say you have to pull yourself out of, I have a very good support group. And if it weren't for them helping me pull myself out, I could still be in there. But luckily, I mean, it's the people that have been around me my whole life.
Well, and I want to tap into that because that's one of the things we got. Jill mentioned about the welfare system. That's how people are with the welfare system. Think about it. It was set up to help, and it became an enabler. And I'm not saying your people, your support group is not an enabler, but sometimes we grow dependent and we grow comfortable and we stay in situations. Mm-hmm. And if it's there, why not use it? And I think and that's what one of the things Jill was saying with the trap is you mentally get comfortable. And I won't say trapped, you get complacent, you get stuck, you get satisfied. And that's why you don't move.
But here's how I look at it, because I saw it a lot with the housing market. So you don't have to work. Your kids are going to go to school. We're going to give you just enough money for food. We're going to give you just enough money to cover your rent and your utilities. You'll never have anything else. You won't be able to make a cake for the birthday party. But people get comfortable with that. So then when it's time to go get a job, then you get a job, you lose your food stamps. Then you can't afford daycare. Then you lose your free health insurance. So it almost becomes too expensive to go work. And that is what I'm referring to when I say poverty trap.
Poverty trap.
Great point.
We got a message from Mildred Lopez. How you doing tonight, Mildred?
Hey, Miss Mildred.
Mildred says, you don't become motivated. You get depressed. You second guess yourself as not only a parent, but as a human being.
Yes.
When you're struggling, trying to survive.
Right.
So she's talking about the mental state, being depressed and in a mode where you don't think you can push forward.
Yeah.
And when you talk about the system being an enabler, it's almost like they put things in place. So when you guys said trap early, so there are traps within the system.
Yes.
That kind of trap you inside.
Yes.
So is that what you guys were referring to
yes.
when you talked about the trap?
Yes.
Okay, so is the welfare system actually an enabler to poverty?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes, it's like, what do they say? We talked about legalizing weed, but, you know, they say weed is the gateway drug. Welfare is the gateway to poverty because, it like you say, if there's a working mother and she has 4 kids, if she gets a job that goes over the guidelines, she loses child care, which is a necessary thing for her to go to work. She'll lose her food stamps, which food prices right now are incredible. Health insurance, which, man, one health crisis can cripple a family, no matter what the financial status is. So you got to look at these things. So why risk all of that for these few dollars when I can sit at home?
Right. And have just enough.
And so I hear that. So let's from the perspective of somebody that would say, well, I'm working 1, 2 jobs if I have to. I'm surviving. Why can't you? What's different between me and you?
Motivation.
Is it just motivation?
It's a lot of things. I think it's motivation. I think it's a lot of things that comes from self. I think it's a lot of things that come from system. I think that people become almost programmed. If you grow up in a household and you are on welfare, food stamps, whatever, TANF, all of that, and you get pregnant as a teenager, and your mom says, this is what we do, this is what we go sign up for, not we're going to do this so that we can pay for all this, this is what we sign up for. It becomes a program within the families, almost like a curriculum.
So still my question is, and I'm speaking as though I'm the person on the outside that goes to work every day and I'm working 2 or 3 jobs.
Right.
If I can do it, why can't you?
It's just a difference in the mind. That's all it is.
I would agree with that, but mindset, in the change of mindset, it has to be. But also, it might be, you got to think of these factors. I might feel that I'm not educated enough. I might feel that I don't have the proper skills to work. There's many of factors that could go into a reason why people, but then there are the people that really just don't want to work.
And that's what I'm getting to. So reality, let's just reality. If the only difference between me being successful and you being successful is our mindset.
Right.
Correct? If I'm hearing that correct. So then being self-motivated, understanding, and some people are okay being right where they are.
Yes.
So we respect that.
Yeah, we respect it.
But for those people that would say they want better and that everything is against them and there's no fair shake, there's no way to get through. Man, I come from poverty.
Right.
I'm not rich. I'm not well off, but I work hard.
Right. So you
12,
don't have
13,
to go.
14, 15 hours a day, 2 or 3 jobs when need be, whatever it take.
Right.
Whatever it take.
Right.
Because one time, man, I was in between jobs and I didn't know nothing about no unemployment, right? So the reality is that somebody said, well, man, you've been working, you can go get unemployment. So I went to the place and I looked around and I saw the atmosphere and everything.
Right.
And I was so uncomfortable.
Right.
And then it's just something, and you're like, man,
Right.
So I leave that place and I make calls and I go ride around until I found another job.
Right.
So is it something within people, man, that settle?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Settle to stay within? Man, I look at welfare as an awesome thing. But when you look at it, how it allows you to utilize it for your entire life.
Yes. Yeah.
How can you, what's good about that?
You have to want better for yourself and for your family and for their family. You have to want better. You have to want better, and that's how you find your purpose, which that's how you get your drive.
But and I agree with you, James. Like I said, I didn't work for 2 years, but I had a different skill set, and I had things that I was able to do to make money, but it didn't come as often or as fast. But some people, like I say, they don't think that they have those skill sets, and they don't think that they have that knowledge. And some of them don't want it. You know, they won't go to school. They won't go to these trainings. I mean, it's all in a person's makeup in the way that they want to achieve different.
Yep. And how they view their future.
So what would it look like if there were time limitations on how long an individual could utilize the system as far as welfare, the food stamps, the checks? How would that impact or change the mindset?
Well, the cash assistance, which is the welfare, the TANF, there is a federal time limit. No matter what state you go in, you have 5 years for the adult to be on cash assistance.
Okay.
Then, after so many children now, if you are on it and you get it and you have a child thereafter, for every child born thereafter, when you start, they can be capped, which means you don't get money for those children. But for food stamps and everything, you can stay on that forever and a day. Food stamps and Medicaid, you can stay on that forever and a day. You don't have to move off of that. But what helps you with that, the thing is, with you lose the cash, there's other places that pay your rent, that pay your utilities. So there's other, we figure out how to maneuver in those systems that we still don't have to go without.
So the moral of the story is, man, it's the mindset, it's the education, and it's the self-motivation.
Yes.
To move forward. And make a mental decision to be intentional about changing your space where you are.
Yes. Yes.
So one thing about that is so awesome, man, if a child grows up in a household, and because kids absorb just reality.
Mm-hmm.
And then we only know what we're privy to or around or what we see.
Mm-hmm.
So for that cycle to go from one generation to the next generation and to the next.
Right.
That's a powerful thing.
Right.
Powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the mindset is strongly encouraged to be motivated and be intentional about changing direction.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. We're going to shift gears here real quick, man. We want to talk about the cycle of poverty. As soon as the working population gets the hourly rate increase, so we all know that there was just a rate increase pretty much all around America, correct?
Mm-hmm.
$15, $16, $18, whatever you want to call it, right? So as soon as this kicks in, then we see things change drastically around that as well. So we'll talk about inflation.
Right.
On all of the necessities that we utilize on a day-to-day basis in our households.
Right. Right. And I said that when everybody was saying that the national minimum wage should be $15, I always said that $15 was going to be worse off than better, because we're seeing that now.
Right.
Inflation, places are, I think a lot of places minimum wage, like Walmart, corporate minimum wage starts out like at $13. That's their minimum wage corporately. That's good, but then it affects everything else.
Correct.
There's more money out there supposedly. Then if there's more money, there's more demand for different things. So if there's more demand, what happens?
Right, it just
Prices
trickles down.
goes up.
I'm going to read a couple figures. So approximately in the last year, this is inflation in America with some of the things that we use quite often. Ground beef has went up 10%. Bacon, almost 20%.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, right?
That hurts.
Used cars, 24%. Gas is $1.31 higher this year than last year at this time. Over 260 widely named brand prescriptions increased almost 3%, which that's quite a big deal. The national average for one bedroom increased almost 20% over the year, two bedroom almost 20%. So that's just kind of a breakdown of some of the things, the housing, the education, everything is going up, but the federal government actually cut education funding by 8%, just to put it in perspective.
That's insane.
That's insane.
That's the trap.
All life-sustaining, look at all life-sustaining things, food, shelter, and mobility to get to that.
Right.
All of those has increased, you know. So it's, we give in one hand and take it out the other. It's insane. I mean, so it's a cycle, like you say. The more you put out there, the more it's going to be taken away. And it's sad. That's why you said, can you get out of poverty? Or these are some of the systems when I say there's things that we don't see.
Correct.
That's going to keep us in poverty.
Correct.
We don't see when inflation's going to hit. We don't know when inflation's
Right.
going to hit. It just, boom, out of the blue.
just
there
hits.
it is. But with the gas, I just read that Biden, gas has always been a thing that they say they spike gas when tragedies happen, crises happen. Biden is saying that he wants the Federal Trade Commission to look into the gas gouging that has happened during COVID and recently over the last few months in COVID. So, I mean, it's just sad that they tax us more.
Yeah, and I think they've done that several times prior to now Biden trying to do it. I mean, the money's so thick, so rich, so huge that it eventually just gets shut down because so many people at the top are actually eating off of that money.
Yeah.
So it's like we're saying, like the inflation simply says that the poor, it's an illusion of inclusion. The same way Martin Luther King said, the way they did the black people,
Right.
but it's actually the entire American population. We're all being given the illusion of growth
Right.
as Americans in this country.
Yeah.
But the reality is that as soon as you get a little more, they take a little more.
Take a little more.
So we need to understand the systems that they're doing to us and forget about the racial issues and fighting against one another and begin to stand up together and fight these systems and put these systems in their place.
Yeah. And if I could quote the great poet DJ Quick, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense.
Reality.
Reality.
Accountability factor, consumer spending, and the stimulus dollars and the infusion of monies that have been given to the American people since COVID has hit the American soil.
Yeah.
Lots of money.
Crazy amount of money. Crazy amount of money. But how much of that money stayed? That's the question. How much of that money stayed? How much of that money was utilized properly or stayed? Over the course of the 3 stimulus checks, these are just the adult individuals. They each received about $3,200.
Correct.
$3,200. I know that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but what was it utilized for?
Right. Right. Because during that time, we have to be reminded that there were assistant programs for almost everything. And I mean, from your rent, from a lot of different things. And then if we look at, we didn't even count the dependents.
Right.
This was just
Just
per
the adults.
adult. So this is somebody who doesn't have any children or dependents. And since March of 2020, Americans have actually received an estimated $478 million in direct cash payments from the federal government. We got that information from the IRS.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and the thing is, we were talking about welfare and food stamps. Now, during this time when you were getting all this extra money, you could have got the extra $600 or $300, would depend on what when you started getting unemployment. But you in the child tax credit that's still going on. We didn't count any of that into your food stamp budget. So you were getting the max amount of food stamps, and then if you had a child in school, you got the that were getting free or reduced lunch. Each child got their own PEBT card. EBT card. It's called the Pandemic EBT. It comes from the Board of Education, Department of Education. And each one of those cards, if you got 4 children in the house, those cards were loaded between $100 and $300, depending on the time that they loaded them. So you're getting all of that extra. That's why bacon increased 19%. That's why eggs increased 7%, because they were giving away. I always said that free money wasn't free. There was going to be something tied to it.
So was the infusion of the funds, the monies, a good thing for America?
At the time, yes, because a lot of people were in dire straits. They were losing jobs. They were not working. But to continue it, if it had a limit, if it had a stopped, it would have been good. But now that it's continuing, it's causing more, because think about it. Look at gas. Gas is a prime example. Why did it go up a whole $1.31 across the board?
Because they could do it. I mean, simply
They
because
knew the money was
because
out
they
there.
could. Yeah, but because they could.
Yeah.
I mean, because they've done it before. Like, this is nothing new. So, all in all, was it a good thing, the infusion of the funds?
I think if it would have came with some education, a lot of times, especially with the poverty rate and how many people are in poverty, when you throw a bunch of money at people, do you really think that they're going to spend it on necessities and things like that? Because obviously they didn't. Up until September, personal spending went up 60%. That's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot. So that kind of tells you where that money went. And I have a feeling that a lot of people are in the same situation, if not a worse situation, than they were then. Because unemployment runs out. Even without the extra, that's going to run out. These stimulus checks aren't going to keep coming in, but we've almost grown dependent on them.
So after the money is gone, and it's like being out in the desert, the oasis.
Right.
That's beautiful. You're hallucinating. It's an illusion.
It's an illusion.
And then the reality is it comes back to you. And the water is gone.
But in that, where we're talking the illusion, I I want to know what we're spending all this money on when there's a food shortage, there's a housing
Everything's
shortage,
on a ship.
everything is on a ship in the Pacific Ocean. What are we spending money on? How are we having Black Friday sales? I mean, where's all this money going?
Right.
It's all an illusion, man. Like when you see that, they say we don't have enough workers to offboard the cargo.
Right.
Not enough truck drivers, not enough laborers. How many people we have in prison?
A lot.
A lot.
We talked about that the other day, man. How many people have we shipped into the American?
A lot.
So to hear the certain things is almost, what's the word we use in the very beginning of the set? The trap,
The trap.
the trickery,
Yeah.
the games,
Yeah.
the games that they play with the minds of the people. So after we get back to reality, the money's gone, the infusion of funds from the government stops coming in, and things are back to normal.
Right.
Some sense of normalcy.
Right.
Everybody's back at ground zero.
Yes.
Have we really made any progress in the last 2 years?
I don't think so. And I don't think it is going to, because I think the new normal is going to shift. Ground zero is not going to be where it was back in 2019. So I don't see prices decreasing. I don't. They're making their money now. I don't see things going back.
Why would they?
I think we're stuck at this. So what happens? It's the cycle again. Well, we got to figure out, get wages up again, do this again, and do this. Then we're just on a hamster wheel right now, and that's where we're gonna stay.
And the rich are extremely comfortable as usual.
Right.
Because the profit margins for every major corporation are about 80 to 90% of them are at least 30 to 40% up.
Some of them went up to 200% in profit during the pandemic.
And a couple of them 600.
That's crazy.
During a pandemic.
Insane.
Yeah.
The last thing on the show for tonight, man, is just basically to encourage our viewers to be steadfast, to stand on what you believe in, but begin to take care of yourself mentally, physically. We're going into the holidays, so to understand that it's going to be difficult for some people financially. You might not be able to do the things that you would want to do for your family, but we would strongly encourage you that the QT time that you can spend with your loved ones, man, is way more than the gift that you can give any child or any lady that you love in your life. So to spend that QT time together, love on each other, laugh, talk, and just enjoy each other. Man, and have family come over to visit too.
Right.
Because I think they're saying COVID is going down.
Yeah. It's been going down in Allen County for a while.
Still protect yourself, but spend time with your family. Don't worry about the financial aspect of life.
And I would like to say that too, because think about it. Thanksgiving, the dinner alone, I think people can spend a month worth of income on Thanksgiving dinner.
For real.
Yeah.
I mean, legitimately, especially with the prices now. I mean, even when the prices was low, I mean, it does not take a whole lot of money to have a good time and to do this. I just say, like James was saying, and not to beat a dead horse, but we got to put our priorities in perspective. What is going to happen the next week after Thanksgiving if we spend a whole month worth of income? You can only eat that food for so long. After the second day, I'm done. You can't give me no more of anything. But you got to feed your family for the rest of that month.
Right. Neither one are worth going into debt for. Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays. I mean, if you have to put yourself in debt, that's not good.
Man, a lot of people over that traditional, they know me. You talking about crab boils? What do they call it? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, crab boils.
More themes, different themes and stuff.
Tacos.
Yeah.
So people are doing things different, man. But we just encourage people to enjoy their families. But before we leave you tonight, we want to share some encouraging words with you. This is something from Nelson Mandela. It says, overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity. It is an act of justice. It is the protection of fundamental human rights, the right to dignity, and a decent life. Nelson Mandela. So what he's saying is that to protect oneself and to also protect your brother or your sister alongside you. That every one of us as humans have a right to a decent life. And if there are anything or anybody that's out there that's in the way of that, then that's illegal. And it's not justice for mankind.
Right.
This is Neutral Voices. We love you. And we'll see you on the next show. Take care.
slanging, my banging, my swinging, my cool.